can quote afford it, because a lot of us can't afford the $250 a month in different subscriptions and platforms, et cetera, that may or may not work and that we may or may not be using. So I just, kind of wanted to share that. But I know your time is very valuable, and I created a slide deck. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and we are going to get right to work talking about literally the most powerful form, the Schedule C. So here we go. Who will benefit from this masterclass? Independent contractors, sole proprietors, single member LLCs, partnerships, S corps, and anyone who truly wants to understand the tax code. And what are we going to cover in this masterclass? Well, we're definitely going to go heavy on understanding the differences of businesses, types of businesses, and the effects that the tax has on each business. We're going to talk about IRS deductions. We're going to talk about proper bookkeeping and documentation methods, and audit prevention procedures, and throwing in too the low impact deductions and red flags. So all of this is going to be super eye-opening for you. A little bit about me. Who am I and what are my credentials? Well, down below you can see my official credentials, right? But before I got any of those credentials, I was already running a 7-figure business at the age of 24. It's a super cool story. I won't share it with you today, but it's really a remarkable story that I will share at some point. But I say this because I want you to feel confident that, especially with education and college no longer being a thing, okay? The best teacher is experience. So my advice is learn valuable skills, apply. Learn more valuable skills, apply. Repeat, repeat, repeat. And you can do it in bite-sized chunks. As a matter of fact, I recommend that. That's why I think that the university system probably failed for the reason that you're sitting there for 4 years consuming all this information and never having the chance to apply. So in this new era with coaches and master classes and masterminds, you can get valuable skills in bite-sized pieces, affordable bite-sized pieces, and immediately apply. So what would be great about this is, if you guys, while you're sitting there, if you do have your last tax return, go ahead and pull it up on your computer or grab it out of your file cabinet, because in about 6 slides, I will be showing you the Schedule C, and I know a few of you have those Schedule Cs on your personal tax return. So as I'm talking about it, you can look at your numbers as we're talking about the broader concept to see how it applies to you. And then, of course, those of you that are in our membership, World Class Women, after this masterclass, you can go back, look at your tax returns, and then circle back with me privately and ask specific questions. So I do pray that I will be sharing this slide deck with you. The video recording will be available to you. So please, just kind of enjoy the conversation. Take notes if you'd like, but this slide deck will serve as your notes. But definitely, I want you to really just wrap your mind around the bigger conversation. And then, getting into what I think is most valuable, my real life experiences, and, why I'm qualified to host this masterclass. I have been a real life business owner for 20 years. So you're learning from 20 years of my failures and successes. I shot a recent reel that said, failing my way to millions. And that's #fact. I literally have failed my way to millions. Yes, my business generates millions of dollars. In 2022, my gross sales are $6.5 million. And as you get to know me more, and I get more comfortable, because again, remember, this is a brand new business for me, okay? So I hope this is inspiring you, because you get to see me literally documenting this experience, okay? In front of you, vulnerable, right? but I promise you, I will show all my receipts, because in a world of smoke and mirrors, you know, it's important to be able to verify and validate absolutely everything. So as long as you're, you know, around me and my membership, taking part of my teachings, I will always show you proof if I'm speaking on something. That's just the way I operate. I have been a business consultant for the last 5 years, and so I have had a lot of business clients. So again, not only are you learning from my experience in my businesses in my industries, but also from what I've learned by consulting other small businesses in multiple industries. I am a tax planner. Okay, there's a difference between tax planning and tax preparing. I also am an enrolled agent with the IRS, and I can prepare taxes. I don't love preparing taxes because it's literally putting numbers into into a form. I like the tax planning. And maybe in a future masterclass, if you guys like it, I'll show you behind the scenes of preparing a tax return. So I can share my screen with you, and we can do, you know, a pretend tax preparation, a behind the scenes of what your tax preparer or CPA or whoever, when they're doing it, you'll actually get to see it in real time. And I think that would be super valuable to do. So if you guys agree, you know, we can schedule that on one of the next masterminds or master classes that I produce for you. I am also a forensic auditor. So what happens is I do valuations of businesses. I've also represented many clients in business lawsuits. So there's nothing good that happens when a partnership decides to dissolve. And oftentimes it requires to go back 3 to 5 years and do a forensic auditing of the books. So I have that experience as well. And then I do tax resolution. I've represented a handful of clients in resolving their tax liabilities, both on the state and federal level due to audits. So I'm very well versed in this area. But aside from being well versed in this area, why am I so passionate about it? Well, I just told you, I've seen the consequences firsthand of not understanding it, okay? Also, do you have something to say, Serena?
Yeah, yes, I just wanna add, you guys, like, I know everybody struggles with their taxes and it's so stressful, and literally not even a week ago, Amber just helped me through a situation that I had been anxious about for over a year, my 2020 taxes, when I sold my business, when I had multiple streams of revenue and blah, blah, blah. And like, I just had no idea what to do. And I knew that I would be paying about 20,000 or more in taxes. And long story short, just by having her strategy and knowledge of all of this, you guys, like, it's a whole new world and it's a whole new language, but it's the most important one. Literally a year of anxiety gone. Like, I ended up getting a refund, and legally, nothing completely under the table. It's just because she understands the tax code and she knows how to operate within it. So it is so important. And I just wanted to throw that out there because it's a life-changing topic. Okay. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you for that. And it is true. It is a life-changing topic. And another one of the young ladies that is on our call today, who's been my girlfriend for 25 years, she too has her own business, and also learning how to navigate with the Schedule C, getting to where you want to be to qualify for a home or other things, et cetera. So there's a lot of back end work that you want to understand before the end of the year happens. And, you know, again, we're going to get into that. But also, I want you to understand that the Schedule C, and you're going to see the form, and it's all going to make perfect sense in a minute. It is used by every business, bank, financial institution, court system, and government entity. I'm talking about Social Security SSI. I'm talking about child support. I'm talking about literally everything worldwide operates on 2 financial statements: a profit and loss statement and a balance sheet. I'm talking about the Wall Street operates off of those two financial statements. Everything, your FAFSA, your financial aid, your mortgages, literally everything. So the fact that we don't have a good handle on two forms, okay? First, I don't think that's coincidental. And that's why I am so passionate about this topic, because if you understand this one form that we are teaching today, it is the form that governs your entire life for a lifetime, period. So mastering this one form and this one skill set has made and saved me millions of dollars. That is why I am doing this masterclass today. That is why I've blown up the Schedule C. And as you can see at the top of it, it literally says profit and loss for business. And as we dissect it, you are going to go, oh my God, I didn't realize it was so simple. Why does everybody complicate it? So that's why we are going to be open-minded for this mindset shift. We are changing our thinking. I will be presenting a lot of technical terms. Unfortunately, it has to be technical because I'll give you a quick example. People use the word salary and wages and in the wrong context. Okay, I'm taking a salary. No, you're not. You're not a W-2 employee. You're not taking a salary. Salary equals W-2. You know, and again, I'm going to get into those nuances. So I am very strict. When I use words, it's for a reason, because those words have a definition and they have a different impact within this form, okay? I don't want you to be intimidated. I just want you to focus on shifting your mindset, because you can always go back to these slides. I even have to go back to these slides sometimes. I don't have it memorized, okay? I don't. It's a lot. So I have binders and I have highlighters that I have to go back and refer to, but it is my guideline, okay? So I want you to know that even though this is what I do for a living, I still have everything printed and highlighted and tabbed just to refer to, okay? My biggest thing is always go back to the source document. And, you know, for those of you who are in this masterclass, it's obvious that you're here for a reason, right? You've taken valuable time out of your day to expand your mind, to learn something new, okay? And I'm so grateful for that. But I want to assure you that, again, by learning this one skill set, even if you're not playing in the game with the wealthy right now, you will be. And you want to be prepared. You've seen all of those stories on social media where Tyler Perry and, you know, audits and all this kind of stuff, all of that could have been avoided literally. And you don't have to be an expert in this. You just have to have a foundational understanding. You just have to be able to speak the language, because even within the industry, the accounting industry, I'll tell you, even though rules are written down, it's crazy what I see happening. And because people go with what the expert tells them, they end up getting themselves in a world of shit. Well, I don't want that to be you. And if you just take the few things in this masterclass today, it won't be. You will have a different level of protection, okay? So let's start talking about LLCs, partnerships, S Corps. It's all over social media. A lot of people thought that by going, you know, a lot of people kind of look down upon sole proprietor, okay? They think like, oh, that's not a real thing. Well, actually, it's exactly the same tax-wise as an LLC and as an S Corp. So it is a thing. So all of you who saw on TikTok that you had to go get an LLC to take advantage of the Schedule C and the tax benefits, y'all went and paid LegalZoom X amount of dollars. If you're in California, you're gonna have to pay the FTB $800. all because you thought that by being an LLC, you were more credible and you could take advantage of all of the tax benefits by being an LLC. Not true. How sad is that? I could just be Amber with my social security number. And again, I'm going to show you this on the form. And I get the same benefits as the LLC. So all of you who went out and spent your hard-earned $1,300, because the minute you LLC'd in California, you have to pay the FTB $800, whether you operate or not, whether you make a dollar or not. You could have just been Susie with your social security number. Unless, of course, you're running a business that requires you to have a business designation for legal purposes, not tax purposes, legal, okay? And if you want more information on that, then happy to provide it, but that's a separate conversation and has nothing to do with tax designation. Everything on this screen right here is a flow-through entity, and these are words that are important to understand. So we want to know what a disregarded entity is. We want to know what a flow-through entity is, okay? And again, as we have more conversations, we'll get more comfortable with the verbiage. But once, literally, if you truly understand these two sentences here, or these two concepts, you'll understand a multitude of things, okay? S Corp, the other pet peeve of mine that happened last year is that once you are using the Schedule C, you have to pay self-employment tax, and everybody freaks out on that because they're like, oh my God. So everything went viral on TikTok that said, if you turn into an S Corp, you don't have to pay as much self-employment tax and you're going to save a bunch of money. Well, I'm not going to go into the full details of all this. I've shot 2 videos on it that I'll share within our membership group that you can watch. But literally, again, because I'm the type of person, number one, I don't believe anything I hear. So I get the source documents and I do a side-by-side analysis. And I've done side-by-side analysis for many people. And many of those people that jumped to S Corp had no business jumping to S Corp. Okay. One of the not downside, but when you jump to an S Corp, now all of a sudden you have to become a W-2 employee. A lot of people didn't. I don't know what that's going to look like for you. I got to be honest. It's definitely going to be a trigger, because an S Corp status with no owner's compensation, meaning a salary, meaning a W-2 salary, is a red flag for the IRS. Why? Because when you did your taxes and didn't take owner's salary, all of the profit went on something called a K-1. And when you receive a K-1, you don't have to pay self-employment taxes on that K-1. So again, that is a completely separate masterclass all about S Corps that I'm happy to teach. But those of you who are S Corp that elected for S Corp status, please take us, this slide is for you, okay? And we can have a more in-depth conversation about it later. And like I stated, and this is just proof of what I'm saying, and actually Sabrina was a victim to this as well, because this is another thing that she didn't realize is, yes, when you get the LLC in California, automatically, whether you sell $1 or not, you pay the $800. Boom. Here's what Sabrina didn't know. And nobody told her, including the fancy CPA who did her tax return. When you start making over $250,000 gross income, look at the fees you have to pay. So the first year that her business went over 250, she had to pay the 800 and the 900. But she didn't know that. Now, was it in the 86 pages in her tax return, in the PDF file that her CPA sent to her? Yes. He didn't mention it to her. and the FTB is behind. So she literally just got a letter from 2 years ago informing her about this LLC fee. Nobody talks about the LLC fee. Everybody knows about the LLC annual tax. Again, you wonder why I'm so strict on the verbiage. The annual tax is $800. The LLC fee is a sliding scale. And all of you in this room who have an LLC in California, I guarantee you, you do not know this. Because I have to be honest, I didn't know it. You want to know why? Because my business is not in California, number one. And number two, I operate as a C Corp. Okay. And there are pros and cons to all of these things. But the point is, you just want to know the rules that apply to you. And many people are leaving out these important things. So when they give you this advice that may benefit you over here, that advice may also low-key screw you over there. And many of these professionals are not giving you a whole form saying pros and cons. And you guys know I'm big on tables. And that's all that I create because I like to give visuals. I like to have receipts. And I like to, if I'm going to speak on something, I'm going to show you all the pros possible and all the cons possible. And that is something that we all need to demand from the people that we work with professionally. We must. And if they're unable to provide it, then we need to go to somebody who will. We need to hold these professionals in the industry accountable. We need to help them raise their level because they've just gotten away with the status quo for too long. And it's not okay because there's too many of us coming into this space now who are working our asses off, who are making a lot of money, and we're losing a lot of money because people are not taking pride in their work. People are not taking pride in educating us. And so that's why this masterclass exists. And that is literally my reason for living at this moment, because I want to set a higher standard in the industry that governs our entire lives. So the tax code was designed by the wealthy for the wealthy. Fact. And I don't know if you can see my screen. Can you see all the way to the right? Because I just see the chat. Okay, cool. So you see that this line here, who pays the least amount of taxes? And then who pays the most amount of taxes? And so when you see the word individuals, individuals are W-2 employees, okay? And all of us were raised low-key to be a good little worker and a W-2 employee. We cannot move within the tax code as a W-2 employee unless we engage in real estate or business activity. So until you become You Inc. And again, remember, you can be sole proprietor Sabrina and still be a You Inc. As long as you're engaging in real estate or business activities that are not a hobby, you can take advantage of the tax code just like the wealthy. So let's meet the real star of the show, the Schedule C, the profit and loss for business. One of the two forms in the entire world that govern everything that affects our lives, everything that affects our lives. When you get a divorce, you're going to be filling out a form like this. Again, child support, everything, mortgage. It's this, not this form exactly, because this is the version Schedule C, but it is a profit or loss. Okay, now back to my point. Name a proprietor. Now remember, this is the form for the sole proprietor, the LLC, Okay, this is it, guys. So name a proprietor. It's your name. Principal, business, or profession. Business name. If no separate business name, leave blank. So again, you can be Sabrina Clifford, business owner. Under your social security number, you don't have to enter anything on line D. You don't. As you can clearly see in this example, which I didn't even try, there's nothing on line D. So the way this is Bruce is doing business as the Hulk. So he did a DBA at the state level under his social security number. That's it. It doesn't have to be that formal. Okay. Now, I want to get you really excited about something. In order to master this, you only have to learn 5 rules, and they're all written. You only have to learn 5 rules. And today we're going to focus on the 2 main rules, which apply to all of us, because some of the others may not yet. But one of them is clearly foundational, and the other one is your Bible. As Sabrina likes to say, it is your North Star, literally. Okay, so that's what we're going to focus on today, because if you don't have a handle on the 2 in red, all of the others go to shit. So we are focusing on the 2 most important, the foundation and the Bible. Foundation, books and records. Okay. If you don't document, you are not legitimate. Period. Everything must be documented. The next one, your Bible, your trade and business expenses, allows for all ordinary and necessary expenses. Ordinary and necessary. No deduction is allowed for personal living expenses. So ordinary and necessary expenses related to your industry or business can be write-offs. Sidebar, it's all online. If you have a question, because I know one of the young ladies here asked me about an upcoming big expense that she has and asked me if it's deductible. Yes, portions of it can be. And I will work with her in documenting it properly and making sure we're following it to the letter of the law. And again, like Sabrina mentioned earlier, she lived with anxiety for a whole year, thinking she was going to have to come out her pocket tens of thousands of dollars. I took what she had. I applied all of these laws, these IRC codes, okay, to the letter. There was no funny business. There was no smoke and mirrors. It's all 100% legitimate. But you have to have, number one, the right records. You have to be able to prove it. And then you also have to have this relationship with your tax preparer where you are telling them everything. And I want you to think about this for a minute, okay? Tax preparation is thought of as a commodity, honestly. You oftentimes go to the tax preparer that's going to be the fastest and charges the least and gets you the most, right? Okay, all of that is bullshit. It's all bullshit. There's no tax preparer that should be able to get you more than another tax preparer if we're all following the same fucking IRC, Internal Revenue Code. How is that possible? How is it possible that a tax preparer can be a magician and get you more? It's not possible. So if you're getting a different outcome from one tax preparer to the next, the only variables are as follows. Either they're doing something they have no business doing, or you didn't tell that tax preparer everything you needed to tell them, or they didn't tell you what you were eligible for, so you didn't mention it. That is the only way, the only reason why there would be a difference in tax owed. The only reason, the only 2 reasons. Okay, there is no magic here. So when we talk about ordinary and necessary expenses, again, there's lots of data on the tests that things have to run through. Some of them are actually, I've enjoyed on social media, where they talk about, their Gucci outfit and, can they write it off? Well, it has to pass a certain amount of tests, meaning, did it apply to the business? And then, of course, if you're wearing it for the business, you can't wear it personally. Otherwise, you can't write it off. Interesting, right? But at the end of the day, who can prove that? But again, like I said, all of these rules are written down. And especially in the age of influencers, what we are able to write off today are things that I couldn't write off 20 years ago. No freaking way. Like 20 years ago, we couldn't write off glam squads. I mean, we could write off a uniform, but nothing like we can do today. Okay. So things have definitely loosened up because the world is changing. And, obviously influencers weren't necessarily a thing back in the day, but literally the people who were kind of our influencers back in the day, like athletes and pop stars, et cetera, they got in a lot of trouble because the rules were a lot stricter back then. So please be excited to know that ordinary and necessary, has kind of expanded. And so again, I want you to get really excited about that, because you're in a time where you're able to, if you're a business owner, take advantage of going to buy that MacBook for $2,200 and be able to write it off, versus the student who's working at Starbucks at with the W-2 wages, who goes and buys the MacBook for school and cannot write it off. Here's the other sad part, and I've shot another video on this too on my YouTube, but I went into great detail because it is literally heartbreaking. So I can have a mastermind and charge $5,000, and you as a business owner or an independent contractor can write that entire $5,000 off. A W-2 student who's working their tail off at Starbucks can only write off $2,500 of their university education. That is mind-blowing. That is mind-blowing to me. So let me tell you something. For those of you that have kids that are wanting to pursue traditional educations, please, let's have a conversation about how we can get them to becoming a sole proprietor or independent contractor and earning something, some way, anything. If it's mowing lawns, if it's babysitting, whatever, like, let's get that on the Schedule C, so they can expense the things that they should be able to expense. It's a travesty that the tax code treats W-2 wage earners the way that it treats them and gives all of these benefits to business owners. But even the smallest business owner who brings in $6,000, I have an ex-employee who started to do, he was middlemaning, it's gonna sound really funny, middlemaning high-end meat, right? And I mean, he made like $7,000 being a middleman during 4th of July, selling Wagyu. It was fantastic because he was able to take advantage of the things that we're talking about today. So I really want you to expand your minds onto what is possible. And so many of us like to hide the money. Oh, we're not going to report it. We're kind of at a loss. And you don't want to do that either. Get your numbers before you make these decisions, because even if you are operating a business at a break even or a small loss, at least you have the history of 2 years. And then by the time you're rocking and rolling, you're now in year 3. And that's incredibly powerful too. So when we're talking about ordinary and necessary expenses, you're thinking, oh God, well, what are those? Well, part 2 of the Schedule C, here it is, baby. Look how easy this is. So think about what you spend in your business. Literally, step 1, print out the bank statement or credit card statement. Step 2, anything that's advertising, put an 8 next to it, because it's going on line 8, kids. Any commissions that you're paying, put a 10 next to it. I mean, this is what QuickBooks is behind the scenes. This is what bookkeepers do behind the scenes. They're taking your bank statements, and when you go and buy paper at Office Max, they put an 18 next to it. And then they add up all the 18s. And then they put it on line 18 on your tax return. You get me? Anytime that you want, you have a car and truck expense, that's legitimate. And I can give you that list too. Put a 9 next to it. Add it up. Goes on line 9. Anytime you travel, anytime you have meals, business related, again, you get where I'm going with this. But I pray that by you seeing it this way, you're like, I can do this shit. I'm going to print out my bank statement. I'm going to print out my credit card statement. I'm going to print this out. I'm going to lay it out. 8, 9, 17, total it up. Boom. I know what I spent on all these things in September. Great. I'm going to do it again in October and November and December. So those of you who are adverse to QuickBooks, no problem, because I'm going to tell you again, I'm here to serve my audience. I'm here to serve my tribe. And I'm QuickBooks all the way. Actually, that's how I learned how to be great, no lie. Okay. When I took over my mother's failing business, the way I was able to get up to speed is because I took 2 years of her bank statements. And mind you, this was like pre-computer, barely computer. Okay. And I taught myself QuickBooks, and I put all of her bank statements in QuickBooks for 2 years. And that's how I understood the ebbs and flows of her dance competition business. Okay. So I am a huge proponent of QuickBooks, but I get it. You guys don't like it. Fine. So guess what I did? I know a gal that doesn't even use QuickBooks. She uses Excel. She exports it every month. She has tabs. It's not something I like to do, but I just went and took my business, Solid Solutions Consulting, and I just did it the other day for the whole year. Okay. It took me 2 hours. Again, I want to manage your expectations. Yes, I'm probably faster at it than you're going to be. What I'm telling you is even though all of it's in QuickBooks, again, because I want to walk the walk, not talk the talk, right? Is I literally did it to see. I did a time study so I can sit here and tell you the God's honest truth. And so I exported my Solid Solutions bank account. I exported my Solid Solutions credit card. I threw it all on a spreadsheet. I did exactly what I just said, 8 for advertising, 10 for commissions, 18 for office expenses. I added it up, boom. So now any of you that say, you know what, I don't like QuickBooks, or I don't want to pay the $30 for QuickBooks, or I don't have time to learn QuickBooks, fantastic. I have an alternative option for you that I will be happy to share with you. And again, I took a whole business, the year's almost over, and I got my answers for it in 2 hours. This is something that you can do. This is something that you need to do. You owe it to yourself. Because when you become uber successful and you have millions and millions and millions of dollars running through your hands, you are going to want to have a good handle on this, and you are not going to want to be told and learning, excuse me, by the seat of your pants as you're going. It's too late at that point. Too many mistakes will be made, and you will be taken advantage of to a high degree. So please, I beg of you, while you're building your business where you're at today, it is never too late. Get a great handle on this. And again, I'm breaking it down so fundamentally and so truthfully and so honestly, because I want you to have the confidence to know that you can move in this space powerfully. So let's talk about mixing business and personal expenses. Don't do it, period. Don't do it. Now you're going to tell me, well, I'm not a real business because I'm a sole proprietor. Okay, that's cool. Go open up a separate checking account, personal checking account. Allocate one of those credit cards for your business. It can still be Sabrina Clifford, personal, Chase, Amex, whatever. Only put business expenses on it, period. Separate it. Again, you don't have to be fancy. You don't have to be formal. Just make sure that when you print out that statement, that monthly statement, it's all business, not personal. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Okay. And I won't even tell you what an audit looks like or what an audit costs. Don't do it. You won't be able to afford the person to represent you in the audit, and you sure as hell ain't going to be able to afford what they do after the audit, which I'm about to give you some insight to that. Because after that happens, and it happens more than you think, okay? I did my first audit back in 2006 is when I was exposed to my first audit. My ex was running a rim and tire shop. And you know, retail businesses are hard in the first few years. So of course you're going to take losses. They are, and all of the losses were legitimate. And he got flagged for an audit. His business got flagged for an audit. And I took care of it. Now here's the great news. Because even back then, before I really knew what I know today, you know, I always do best practices. That's just how I operate. So thankfully, because of that, even though I was a novice, even though I didn't know everything, again, I knew nothing the way I know it today. But because I showed up with clean records, you know, with honest records, we owed nothing. So the auditor deemed that everything was in fact valid. That's a great feeling. But I was able to represent him in the audit because I was the one that kept the books. So what happens if you're paying a bookkeeper or no bookkeeper at all, and you get audited? Who's going to represent you? You can't even represent you. That is not a good place to be in. And I guarantee you, I charge $250 an hour to represent people in audits. Okay? So you don't want to be put in that position. And I've been in audits that have gone on for 6 months. I bullshit you not. 6 months. And I have watched people in businesses pay lawyers to represent them in audits that have spent tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars and still had a non-favorable outcome because their back end was messy. Hence the reason we're talking about the 2 important internal revenue codes that you must master. And then when they discover that you commingled everything, all those personal expenses that you claimed were business, they take it out of that bucket and they put it in this other bucket. And then they charge you taxes and penalties. And I've had clients who didn't report things over $1 million, criminal penalties, criminal charges. And this is real. So here are our major takeaways. Keep good records. Do not commingle funds. Understand what ordinary and necessary expenses are. And then also know that you're not always going to work with the same professionals. You're not going to have the same CPA or the same accountant for the next 30 years. That is why it is your responsibility. Okay, I'm going to use a fancy word here as a business owner. It is your fiduciary responsibility to have all of your ducks in a row for 7 years. Do not blame your accountant. Do not blame the fact they ran off with your shit. Do not blame that they didn't send it to you. Do not blame that they shared it with you in a Dropbox and you were too lazy to download it. It is your responsibility to control your records and your bookkeeping, even if you're paying somebody an exorbitant amount of money to do it. I've seen horror stories with this too. Save everything, print everything, keep the records. Make notes of everything. Any advice that a professional gives you, do not accept it verbally. If they're telling you, for instance, one of you asked me, hey, Amber, can I write this off? I go, yes, you can, but I'm going to email this to you and show you in the code why you're able to. Because I have seen too many times the following year, you go to another professional and that professional will go like, well, I don't know why they did this. And I'm usually that professional who's talking shit on the professional before me. Okay. And I'm like, why did they give you this advice? Well, I don't know. They just said, so they just said it and you did it. Well, yeah, they're a professional. Okay. Do you know what this has done to you? No, I have no idea. So, and there's no record of why. And then I show them, and again, it's on little things too. It's on little things, difference between going from cash to accrual and some other concepts that are kind of make or break in this. And you take this advice so trustingly. And I get it, same way when we go to doctors, they give us advice, right? And we literally take it blindly. But I think a lot of us in the room too can admit that that wasn't always the best thing either. It's important that we advocate for ourselves and think critically for ourselves. But you can't think critically if you don't have the foundational understanding. And again, I pray that this time today is giving you that foundational understanding and confidence to question everything. Show me in writing, show me the code, period. Sidebar, I do this because I don't prepare taxes. So for my clients, I prepare taxes for my friends and family. That's it. I don't do it, professionally. But when I have clients that I'm representing in other ways, I have gotten in low-key arguments with them via email about what they're recommending. And I have had to cut and paste from the Internal Revenue Code and say, with all due respect, this is not the proper course of action. So please explain to our client why you're recommending this. 10 times out of 10, they're like, my bad. 10, I have never sent an email like that and gotten a response that was justifiable. Never. And it's not because I'm smart. It's not because there's anything special about me. They've taken more tests than I have. But the reason I'm able to operate like this is because I fucking care. I care so much because this is literally, in some cases, life or death for a lot of us. I don't want to be over dramatic, but tell the truth. Because the type of worry that can happen when you're in a shitstorm in this, can compromise your health, can compromise your marriages, can compromise everything. So that's why it's so important. Another thing that I want to bring to your attention, low impact deductions. These are low hanging fruit. Medical expenses and the home office deduction, and every single tax preparer will tell you otherwise. But guess what? I learned this from a woman who was 19 years in audit, 13 years for the IRS, and these are two things that are red flags. Now, they are completely legitimate, but they are highly audited items. So if you don't need them, don't use them. So again, the power of me learning how to do tax preparation, I'll put in everything except the home office deduction to see where we're landing. And then I'll throw in the home office deduction to see what the difference is. I bullshit you not. If it's a difference of $126, and literally it's that small of a difference in some cases, then we're not doing it. We're not doing it. Isn't that crazy though? Like, you wouldn't think that somebody would make that recommendation, but it's not worth $126. It's just not. Let's go find another way, to recoup or make that $126. And, so that's why literally I am the strategist that I am. We don't take low hanging fruit. We don't do the status quo, and we don't do what everybody else is doing. We show up excellent. Other audit triggers are underreporting income. And a lot of us are guilty of it. I'm going to give you an example. Those of you who are doing a lot of business on Shopify, the report that they generate, it's the net amount. Because remember, they take their fees before they put it in your bank account. And I've had way too many clients reporting that. And then when they get their 1099, the sad part, they didn't even know they were getting a 1099 because I guess it's not automated via an email. So you have to go into like your profile or whatever to grab it. And the math ain't mathing. And so that 1099 goes to the IRS. And so let's just say that that 1099 said $10,000 top line, meaning gross sales. And you said you only had $9,000 in gross sales. Well, you thought you had $9,000 in gross sales because the other $1,000 went to fees. But what you should have said was that you had $10,000 in sales minus $1,000 in Shopify fees. But the report that you pull, and again, if any of you are Shopify people or Etsy people or whatever, holler at me. We can do a masterclass on this, and I can show you the proper reports on what to give to your CPA or to yourself or to your bookkeeper. You're missing out on those fees. So you are, even though honestly, you are underreporting income. Now, what happens if an auditor comes to you and goes, hey, you said $9,000, but this 1099 clearly says 10. And you're like, oh my God, yes, I am so sorry. This is the report that I pulled. It was the net, my bad. But as you can see, there was $1,000 in Shopify expenses. They're gonna go, this is what happens, okay? Because it's low key like when you get pulled over and the whole Pandora's box explodes, right? Okay, so they come to you like that and you're like, no, I can totally justify this. And they're like, no, you're right, you can justify it. Okay, anyways, so since we're here, let's do a sampling. So I no longer am thinking that you're underreporting income because you showed me the logic behind the mistake. But now I'm afraid you might be over-reporting expenses. So we're going to do what's called a sampling. So give me your general ledger. What's that? You don't have a general ledger? No. Is your general, or if you're like, yes, okay, I have a general ledger. Is it reconciled? What's that? No, it's not reconciled. Oh yeah, we can't even start the audit until you have a general ledger and it's reconciled. And by that point, they don't fucking believe a word you're saying because they see you're raggedy. So guess what's about to happen? They're going to dive into your business accounts. They're going to dive into your personal accounts. They're going to dive into your husband's accounts and anybody else that you transferred money to, your kids' accounts and all type of shit. I've watched it happen. Again, all because of something, because of being untidy. Bottom line, I've watched it happen and they don't give up. They don't give up. They circle back every week. They sit there with you for 6 hours at a table. And if you're like, oh, this was a cashier's check 3 years ago, great. Go to your bank and go get a copy of it. I want to see front and back and I want to see who endorsed it. Now, hopefully you're not, laundering money because all those endorsements on the back, they tie it all together and they're smarter than you think. So again, I'm giving you worst case scenarios because this is what it can be. And I've seen it done for businesses that are honestly the saddest part, that are under the $1 million mark. And they rip them to shreds. They rip them to shreds. And before you know it, you owe $250,000 to the government, you're out of business. And they're taking your significant others' refunds, the whole nine. I've ripped to shreds. Just take my word for it. So tax evasion, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. Jail, it's living the hell of the audit, really. I think I'd rather go to jail than live the hell of the audit, frankly. Okay. And again, I've been audited myself. Thankfully, knock on wood, everything's been fine. I was able to prove my point. They agreed that the records matched. Thank you for your time. Okay, so again, that's why I'm an authority and I can speak to this. But individuals who I've had to come in and help with audits, obviously I wasn't doing their record keeping, I wasn't doing their books. And the sad part is they didn't tell me a lot of things either until it got blown up. So had they kind of told me what they were hiding or what could have been hiding, I might have been able to put together a strategy to mitigate risk. But they didn't mention it. And sometimes things go really, really, really bad. So the other thing that I highly recommend too, this is a game changer, is back in my day, we always had to wait for paper statements, right? And now you can just literally create your account on the IRS website. Game changer. You can view everything. And especially in the last few years where we had like the advanced child tax credits and the economic impact payments, and you weren't sure if you got it, you might have got it, you didn't get it, your ex-husband got it, da, da, da. It's all right here. So I highly recommend you create an account. You can look at absolutely everything, transcripts. Again, I'm old school, so I used to have to pay people a lot of money to ask for my transcripts, or I would have to write in and wait 90 days for transcripts. And now it's at your finger's touch. So I think this is an incredible tool. I'm grateful that they did that. And I'm able to act quickly for my clients because of this. Because when I'm talking to my clients and they're like, oh, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. Well, you can get me answers by tomorrow, log in and get me the answers. So this is a super powerful tool that not a lot of people in the industry are making mandatory that their clients have, but it really allows us as professionals in the industry to advocate for you faster and to advocate for you with real information, legitimate information, as opposed to you just telling me something. I can now see it with the source document. So I can give you accurate information as to the strategy of how we're gonna, move forward with your situation. And, tax season is year round. The minute a dollar is earned, tax is due. And that's why you hear about business owners having to pay quarterly. And so some of you wait till the end of the year and then you owe all kinds of money, and I get it, but you should really know what your tax liability is year round. And if you do any of the things that I've talked about today, you will be able to know where you're landing. Please don't wait till December to figure out where you're landing, because if you do, you're in a desperate mode, you're in a defensive mode, you're not in an offensive mode. And at that point, you're literally like desperate, digging for deductions and shopping for refunds. And as world-class women, I don't think that we want to be operating desperately or being perceived as desperate. So this right here is a huge level up. And again, if you just invest some time into taking your tax return and then maybe rewatching this with your tax return, or telling me what you want to know more about, and I will create more unique, personal master classes for you that give you the answers that you need. But again, at that point, we're operating from a place of offense, of information, of power, and it's invaluable. You can't put a price on that. So it's Q&A time. Okay. So go for it, guys. You can unmute yourselves, talk. It's an open forum.
I have two questions.
Yes.
So the first question is, if you've already purchased an LLC, are you able to cancel it? Like, how does that work? Because I purchased mine through LegalZoom for the state of Texas. And now that I've been exposed to this information that you've provided, clearly I didn't need it. But I operated off of what I didn't know. So now that I do know, is it worth me canceling, or should I just keep it? Like,
yeah. So before I answer, so let's have a private conversation offline. I'm more than
Okay.
likely, so you're going to explain to me what your business and services are. And then we're going to
Okay.
have a conversation about your comfortability with the legal umbrella and protection about that.
Okay.
And after I have more information about that, then we can decide, if it's a good move for you.
Okay.
And it's easy to dissolve a company. And two, the other thing that I do for a lot of my clients is, because of LegalZoom, I mean, and don't get me wrong, they're fabulous and they do a great job, but oftentimes you're paying them to be your resident agent and you didn't know that you could be a resident agent. There's lots of little renewal fees and so on and so forth.
Yes.
I mean, they are a professional service, so rightfully so, but I teach people how to organize their own businesses for free, because I think in going through that process and understanding the forms, again, there are only 2 forms,
Mhm.
you've seen it, you're more confident, and you understand how things are going foundationally, right? So
Mhm.
I'll have this conversation with you, not just offline, but I will, when we come to a solution, then I'll make it more formal so other people in the room too can benefit from what we've learned.
Okay.
But to that point, and I want you all to see that I didn't give her a 30-second soundbite answer. Okay. In order to serve her properly, I need more information. There's a checklist. I need to vet through multiple lenses. That's how you protect your clients.
Mhm.
I could have just said, yeah, girl, dissolve it. I'll send you the link. It'll be easy. Because honestly, that's probably what it's going to be.
Mhm.
But it would be irresponsible of me to say that, because I need to know 10 other things
Right.
have a cause and effect to you.
Mhm.
So again, I'm trying to illustrate that this is the level that we have to hold professionals to. Don't
Right.
quick answer to get me out your face,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
Go through every line item and make sure I understand and then document it. And so that's what we'll do. And of course, we'll share our results with the group.
Okay, perfect. And then my second question kind of leads into that as well, because I am an influencer. I do work with brands and they do pay me. And I also travel for content purposes. So, and I use my home office as well to shoot content and to work out of. So kind of just going over those deductions and everything like that. And I do rideshare services as well. So kind of like just all of that, putting it together in that profit and loss section. Because I do have it filled out because I do Lyft.
Yes.
So, and I didn't even realize that until you showed it. And I pulled up my taxes, like, oh my gosh. And my tax preparer missed a lot of information. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay. So yeah, just understanding like the deductions and what I could write off when it comes to my travel, because my travel is a mix of personal and business. So just understanding that, and also like the outline of my office as well.
Yep. And we'll do deep dives on all that. And
Perfect.
yeah, and I'm excited. So thank you for the opportunity, because this is what's super valuable.
Yes. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I have a question. So when it comes to real estate professional, I know that I am a business, so I get that side of it, but I don't own property, but I did do a $30,000 loan to do a flip, to invest in a flip. So I don't know, does that consider me a real estate professional in the tax code?
So I will share that specific tax code with you. So people that engage in real estate activities, there are 2 ways to engage: actively or passively. Okay, and there's a rule, and anybody who's putting 500 or more hours, and again, it's very literal, and I'll share that slide with you in World Class Women, that then you can say you are active, at which point it gives you a bigger benefit. But if you're passive, okay, that's fine too. But in this, so I'll do, so I mean, I think you guys are gonna love this. And so we'll make this a series, okay? So that's a whole 1-hour series, which, sidebar, I am happy to do 10 more slides about it, okay? But just know that there are rules, and then I'm gonna show you the snazzy form, the second most powerful form, okay? And then we'll do a whole Q&A and class on that. And
Okay.
you're gonna love it. It's gonna blow you away.
Okay.
Yes, I would totally love that too, because I'm interested in getting into like short-term rentals and things like that. So I definitely want to be able to understand that, because not a lot of people are talking about this, Amber. They talk about how you can make all this money, but they're not talking about the back end stuff, which you're talking about. So yes.
Yes, so if it's okay with you guys, I would be honored to do that for my next masterclass with you in a few weeks.
Yes, yes.
Cool.
Also, KT had a question. I don't know if she wants to unmute herself or I'll read it to you. She asked, do we want, go ahead, KT.
Okay, hi guys. So I do have that question, and then I also have another one. So that question was, do we really want to write off the most possible?
So that's a strategy. So I'll be honest with you, I've had years where I could have written everything off legally and legitimately, and I chose not to. And actually, Latasha, who's on this call as well, can speak to this, because at the end of the day, what matters is your adjusted gross income, which is on page 1 of your individual tax return. And that is what lenders use to qualify you. So even though on your Schedule C as a business, let's say you brought in 300,000 and you spent 300,000 legitimately, right? I mean, and that's possible. It's 100% possible. And especially if you have the records, which means you have zero profit as a business, right? Well, at that point, unless you have other W-2 earnings, your husband's earnings or what have you, your adjusted gross income on the front page of your individual tax return will also say 0, right? I mean, it is what it is. It's honest, it's legitimate, it's legal. Sometimes people's sometimes people AGI is a negative number, which is called a net operating loss. Please note that's what, and this is like bigger concepts, but it will definitely get into this with the real estate, it's called phantom losses. And that's what the wealthy are doing. So they're legitimately earning millions of dollars legitimately. They're writing things off, and then they're using real estate to depreciate them to a net operating loss, which is a phantom loss that they put in a piggy bank that they can use year over year to offset their income. But the thing is when you're at a 0 or a net operating loss, nobody's going to qualify you for $1 million house. So they play a different game. Okay. And I can explain all that too. I mean, remember, this is like literally foundational, and we'll be doing brick by brick. Okay. But keep asking these questions, because I will create the classes for you. I don't want to overwhelm you. And again, it's all custom. So, and listen, you guys have direct access to me, and I'm happy to work with any of the professionals that you work with, and you can always shoot me a question. That's why this membership exists. Okay. And so you can send me your P&L, KT, in December and say, hey, look, this is where I'm landing. And I'll tell you, I'm like, well, if you land here, this is what's going to happen. And if you land here, this is what's going to happen. What best serves your interests today, and also what best serves your interests for the next 3 years. So again, I've played that game with Tasha here, where she wanted to qualify for a house, and I played it with Sabrina too in the past, where when,
I want to speak on that.
When you want to qualify for a house, you don't give up all your deductions, because then it takes you to 0 and you don't qualify. Now, right. What I will do, depending on what type of deductions they are, I may hold them for the following year, which is also something that I did with Sabrina for a tax strategy for her 2022. So her coming to work with me for 2021, we hashed that out, but we already know where she's landing for 2022. And it just worked perfectly. But again, it's custom. It's not, that's why I really want you guys to understand, this is not one size fits all. We do not just ask blanket questions. So for me to give you the proper answer, I have to see your numbers and work with you quickly, but I'm quick. So as long as you give me what I'm asking for, I will quickly print it out, draw arrows, write scenario 1, 2, 3, give it back to you. You can chew on it for a minute, right? And then we can go back and forth. And then of course you can take that to the professional that you're working with. So again, that's the beauty of having access to me in this membership as well. So
Okay.
please don't hesitate to send that over to me, and I'll give you my advice.
Thank you, Amber. And then I have another question. So originally when I bought my LLC, I got it with honestly no knowledge. I didn't even know what I was doing or even if this was going to be my real thing. But I got it with the intentions or with the reasoning of, well, in case in the long run, at some point in your life, someone wants to sue you, they will be suing your brand, your KT Fit, and it will not come back to you. So that's the reason why I did it, because I was like, well, the last thing I want is for my kids and my husband to be affected. So in that case, would it be a right reasoning to have an LLC is just so you won't mix the two together, or is there laws where like at some point if they need to, they still will go into your personal?
So the corporate umbrella can be penetrated at all levels in certain circumstances. So just know that the corporate umbrella is not unpenetratable, and I can speak to that in detail. But yes, at the end of the day, it is great to have that protection. Today's class, again, remember, was talking about tax designation, not legal designation. So in your case, because of you are a personal trainer, right? You want to have the liability insurance and you want to keep any type of injury or lawsuit far, far away from UKT, the person, or UKT, the mother, or UKT, the wife, okay? So that is a legal designation. And that's why you're making that decision to operate in that lane, because you're protecting yourself legally. There is no tax benefit for you as an LLC. There is a legal benefit for you as an LLC.
Okay.
So for some people, for instance, Soraya, as you know, she's an influencer. So she's not training people. She's not selling supplements. She's not providing mental health services. So she may not need that legal umbrella. Again, may not. I'm going to run it through a test with her. Okay. And I'll also share that test with you guys so you can see. But definitely, you know, number one, you're already very successful. You're making money. You've been in business several years. Definitely, at the end of the day, we all want to separate ourselves. And I will share with you some advanced movement that I've learned and I'm doing is I'm separating myself out. So Amber, the person, barely makes any money. I throw all my money through my corporations. So when you look at Amber, the individual tax return, I'm poor. And that's another trick of the wealthy, which I'll show you. I'll actually share it with you on a visual, and you'll guys kind of trip out. And again, you know, and this is why I'm really glad that we get to do this, is because God, we have 12, I mean, you know, so much content to cover. You'll learn more in the next, you know, 12 weeks, 12 months with me than you would fucking at UCLA in a tax course, you know, in a business course. I mean, straight up, I can stand on that. You know, I mean, this stuff is invaluable, and I'll share it with you. But remember, it's not all one size fits all, and it's all in the timing, because it's a lot to manage. So if you're not even, and I'm not speaking to anyone directly, but if you don't even have a handle on your books and record keeping, you do not need 4 or 5 entities to be running shit through. Okay, because it's expensive. And it's literally 4 more file cabinets of 7 years worth of shit that you have to keep organized. So, you know, we got to walk before we run, right? And we have to master the one ourselves first and foremost, and then secondly, our legal entity. And then once you've mastered that, you know, then we can get into trust and other entities and how to make money flow through things. And I mean, it's super exciting. And I've started to apply it to my life. And just by making that transition, running things through a few different entities, I saved $30,000 in tax last year. But remember, for most of you, you'd have to pay somebody to figure that out, how to do that. I do it myself. And so the savings that I got, if I didn't know how to do it myself, I would have had to pay somebody. So really it's not a savings. It's only a savings because I upped my skill set, not because it was like a true savings, right? Because this is advanced movement. But again, I will definitely put it on your radar. And you know, at any time you just raise your hand. Am I a candidate for this? Yes or no? And then we'll go through the, you know, the criteria. And then I'll say, well, when this happens, then I think you'll be a better candidate, circle back and that type of thing. But yeah, I mean, this gets really exciting. It's very powerful, but there's a lot of lenses. Another thing too, quick, I just want to share because I guess I should be writing these subtopics is Sabrina, when she dissolved one of her entities, she thought she had to wait to the end of the tax year. And then she was unclear as to what happens with that credit card that was associated with that business entity. So she waited an entire year, another $800 to the franchise tax board because she was unclear. So when I explained to her, you've got the federal government, you've got the state government, you've got the local government, and here's what's under each one. She was like, oh. I said, because this is under, you know, and I'm explaining it to her. Again, I do a lot of pictures. I think pictures are helpful. And had she known that, she would have been able to save $800. So just, again, keep asking the questions. I'll get you the answers. We'll really start to document it, you know, in our forum so that it's all on our radar. And then when it's applicable to our lives, then we have that foundational information that we can apply. And God willing, save us tons of money and make us tons of money.
I have another question if I can. Real quick. I get confused with 1099s. Like if I'm doing side work, you know, I used to do web design, graphic design. So like if I pick up a side project for somebody and they want to 1099 me, but I get confused because I'm like, okay, I'm a business. I don't go to Walmart and businesses and 1099 them just because I've spent more than $600 with them. So like, how come my invoice doesn't suffice and they have to 1099 me? Because if that's the case, then I need to charge more. I mean, I don't really do those services, but that's an example. Another example is I just did a brand deal, my very first one for $500. And they asked me for my W-9 and wanted to 1099 me. I wasn't expecting that for $500, number one. And number two, I'm like, yeah, I just don't understand why I have to give them that as a business. Like I'm giving you my EIN as a business, you know, I don't pay other businesses. Like, for example, my coach, you know, my coach, he invoiced me. I paid the invoice $3,000. I didn't say, hey, give me your W-9. Am I fucking up?
No, so listen, so what's happening again is there's a lot of misinformation in the accounting world and everybody's freaking out because the IRS is really clamping down. So in other words, if you have independent contractors, you pay out certain things, they do want to see certain records. And in some cases, invoices don't work because a lot of people are invoicing as companies, but they're reporting it as personal or not reporting it as personal. So people are going in the whole other direction to cover their ass. But there is a written law about it. And no, if you are a business entity and not a sole proprietor, they should not be asking for a 1090 or for a W-9, but they are. But I will show you that in writing. I've actually had to use that with people saying, you're not 1099ing me on this. You know what I mean? And I'll shoot them the rule. And they're like, well, I'm sorry, this is what our accountant is requiring. And I'm like, well, your account, you know, and they'll put me on the phone with that.
Because like the brand deal, I'm like, okay, it's first of all, it's 500 and I already had been made privy to the 600 rule. So I wasn't expecting it. But I'm like, if I would have known you were going to charge me taxes, I would have charged you more. What the hell? So
that's crazy. That's crazy, Sabrina, because I've never had that experience. So that
really,
yeah, they don't ask me for no 1099. They give me an invoice.
And so so it's not consistent. And I think that's unfair, right? Because you have, you know, the IRS knows you made that money. And for Soraya, the IRS doesn't know that she made that money.
Mhm.
You know,
Right.
so it's on a
Mhm.
global, reporting basis at that point. It's not consistent, but I will share the rule with it, and you can exercise it. You can try to exercise it if you want. I've applied it for a couple of my clients, and people get real pissy about it. And they're like, well, bottom line, we don't care. This is what we require. And, if you don't do this, then we're not paying you. So for instance, VIP, okay. So one of my businesses, I'm a C Corp all day long. Okay. And I just got, and I get these big accounts, and they ask me for my W-9. So I get 1099s, as my reg service. It's a registration
That's
service. They're 1099ing me, I don't fight it because it doesn't matter to me. My shit's on the up and up, and I report every single dollar that I earn, every single dollar, including the cash. Because a lot of people, and don't get me wrong, that, hasn't always been the case, but I don't mess around, man. I don't want any, I've gotten too sharp to be able to use the code to my advantage that I'm not playing no games. It's not worth it.
So it's like a conversation that kind of needs to be had before you decide to engage in the business with that freaking person or company, I guess. Because yeah, I'm just like, everybody's 1099ing me, but I don't 1099 anybody in my new business. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, no, this is not fair.
Yeah, so
Thank you.
I'll work on it. Thank you for that, because I'll work on a cheat sheet of best practices for that.
Yeah,
Because I think that'd be really valuable. And a lot of people are not uniform. And a lot of people are very uninformed in this space. And the reason people are getting so anxious about it is because, and I think a lot of it had to do with everybody going on unemployment in 2020, et cetera, because before, if you recall, it was 1099s miscellaneous only. Now there are different types of 1099s. So there's 1099 miscellaneous and 1099 NEC, non-employee compensation. Because truth be told, remember what we talked about in this class, the tax code only favors two things: business activity and real estate activity. So the people who are getting smart and want to go into business activity, 1099 NEC, it's low key, like they're putting like the Star of David on us. You know what I mean? Like all of a sudden now, it's the scarlet letter. I mean, it's because they're segmenting us on purpose. That's not coincidental, ladies and gentlemen.
Right.
Because when somebody is treated as an employee, they don't get to apply the same rules. So they pay higher taxes.
That's crazy.
And I don't want to get into like, conspiracy and all this stuff, but like straight up, it's W-2, you don't get to use those rules don't apply to you. Business owner, whole list of rules. Go get the Lamborghini, right? Legitimately. But they're segmenting us out. 1099 NEC. And they're tracking it.
Thank you.
Yes, I'll do a whole worksheet and best practices on it so it's on your radar. But again, if you're doing what I'm asking you to do, it's not a concern for you because you are being 100% honest, 100% transparent, 100% legitimate, right? But it's still great to know.
Does anybody else have any questions? Because I have a bunch. Just kidding. Okay, one last question, Amber. Okay, remember back in the day, I've known Amber for like 55 years, by the way, everybody. But remember back in the day when I used to help you reconcile and you would have me write the numbers next to the charge. Were those the numbers that you just showed us on the Schedule C?
Now, those were numbers that I made up.
Oh, I was like, I just had a full circle moment.
No. So because obviously a lot of that stuff isn't in there. And I track on an even more micro level. So like, for instance, advertising, I would track like, let's say like with our new venture, right? I'm going to break it even more segmented. So it's going to be Facebook ads or this type of ad or this type of ad, because I want to see where the money's going in the different, minute levels. So for instance, when you were helping me reconcile with Rainbow, travel, yes. But in order for me to make masterful decisions on where we might be bleeding, I had travel separated by airline because I want to see, do we spend more or less on airlines this year? Hotels, more or less on hotels. rental cars, more or less on rental cars, gas, more or less, baggage, more or less, and so
Wow.
forth,
They
right?
exploded the whole topic.
Because when you track things at that cellular level, and so that's when you're, and listen, you want to track things at that cellular level in the beginning, but it really makes a difference when you're rolling millions, because the more zeros you have, the more things can get out of control. Okay. So when I can look and I can go, hold up, why did I spend 48% more on airlines this year when I did 2 less shows? That's fucking crazy. And that's happened to me before. And you know what I was able to discover just by segmenting it like that? I discovered that my travel bookers were not booking on the most optimized days. So they weren't booking on Tuesday. They weren't doing it with the incognito window. Okay. And then also another gentleman who was booking for my truck drivers, he was always a day late and $1 short. And he was oftentimes booking at 5 days. And of course, you're not getting any deals at 5 days. So a lot of times you can catch operational problems in your business by literally looking at your profit and loss statement, because it tells a story.
Amazing. This is good stuff.
Yeah, so I've got some good stuff coming for you. So, okay, so best practices for 1099s, and then you guys want that real estate course next time, yes? Okay, cool. And then, yeah, and then of course, I'm gonna have a conversation with you, Soraya. I'm gonna circle back
Yes.
to KT. Yeah, so I think we're good. I hope this was powerful, and I pray it recorded, and I'll share the slides. And yeah, I think World Class Women is we're getting official here, Sabrina.
We are. And you guys, we have a lot coming. We're just in the background. This is obviously a brand new venture for us. We are making, figuring out our overall pathway with this program, because neither of us have any doubt that what we specialize in is game changing. Like Amber knows her shit when it comes to business, money, like life-changing stuff. She's changed many, many, many lives. And I know my shit when it comes to the vision and the nutrition and the body work and stuff. And so I'm excited, and we're excited, and just thank you guys for being here in the beginning of this journey as it develops and blossoms into something amazing. You know what I'm saying? So yay. I will see you guys on the next class, which is in 2 Sundays, where we kind of touch back on the vision that I had you guys create. So like on this class, KT, Latasha, and Sandra, I don't think you caught my last class, but go into the dashboard. You'll see my notes on last class where we talked about vision, because it'll be important for my next class. We're going to dive deeper into the phases of the vision and what encounters you can expect on your journey. And these things are game changers. I don't know if you guys think this vision shit is a game, but it is not, okay? Because I'm over here manifesting shit. I don't know about anybody else who doesn't have the time to put into their own vision, but my shit is about to pop off. So y'all better be ready. That's all I'm gonna say. Be fucking ready. And I don't want to hear no excuses. You have a vision, we all do. And I know it has to do with your mind, your body, your money, your relationships. And that's the work we're doing here in World Class Women. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a quick question, Amber.
Yes.
You think we could have a one-on-one, so we could go over if I should continue with my LLC or if I should convert it to something else?
Yes, I will grab that checklist and share it with both of you, and then we'll go down the line items and see
Amber,
what's best for you.
Okay.
I'll do it for both.
Oh, Amber, my husband wants to say hi.
Oh, hi.
Hi, I cooking carnitas, you know coming?
No, not today. It's not body beautiful.
Right?
You don't like the carnitas?
Actually, I don't like carnitas, honestly.
Sandy, Mary, I there's tortillas.
And we're making handmade tortillas.
Next time.
Hi, Amber.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, guys,
Bye.
enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
Thank you.
So much.
You too. Bye, guys.
Thank you, Amber.
Bye.
Bye.